If you want to support the channel, you can use code Tablemon to get 5% off at Potent Store for your online codes, 10% off for your sealed product at Flipside Gaming, and 20% off for your superfoods at Amaranthi. Or if you're looking to buy singles or sleeves, you can fill up your cart and close the tab, then click on the affiliate link in the description and check out. That way you can support the channel over at TCG Player, Card Market, and Dragon Shield. This video is sponsored by the Pokemon TCG deck building website PokemonCard.io. Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new video here at Tablemon. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're going to be taking a look at the tier list of decks, my own personal take on the list heading into Orlando Regionals and where the metagame is at right now. Now, of course, we've had the same metagame since LAIC over in November, which was heavily dominated by Lugia. We have seen other decks come up and take tournament wins. We've seen Lugia's dominance definitely flip. Not its popularity, though. Its popularity has remained pretty consistent at around 30%, more or less, each tournament in the metagame, both, on anywhere where we've had tournaments. So Lugia is still the enemy number one of the metagame. If your deck can't beat Lugia or doesn't have a decent Lugia matchup or a game plan against Lugia, you're probably better off playing something different. However, if your deck does, then you probably have a good chance in any given tournament. So for tier 1, I've decided to put a Lugia, Mew, and Lost Box Rayquaza at the top. Now, we used to combine all the different Lost Box variants into one Polaris or Mirage Gate image. However, I feel like they're now so unique and individually different that I do think it's worth it to keep each one of them in their own section. So results wise, not only because I played it and got top 8, people before me had played the deck and done very well with it. So Rayquaza does seem to be the number one Lost Box variant. I'm using my list as an example right here, with the whole lineup, the full Rayquaza line, the full Raikou line, the Cramorant, the Sableye, just maximum consistency as much as possible. This deck is definitely one of the most challenging and difficult decks to play as of right now. It's easy to play, but it's not easy to play optimally and play at the highest level. So definitely not a beginner level deck, but still a very fun deck nonetheless. Now, the main caveat of this deck is the starting hands. If you get a decent enough starting hand, you're gonna have a very good time. If you don't, then it can sometimes struggle, but it does have all the tools necessary to take multiple prizes with single prize Pokemon, be it Rayquaza, one KOing big rule box Pokemon, or Raikou and Sableye and Cramorant pressuring single prize Pokemon, so you have best of both worlds. Now, Mew VMAX, the most recent tournament winner of the regional over at Liverpool, can feature the Fusion Strike build, usually features this build, the double turbo energy build, which is pretty fantastic, very versatile. Somehow it's now become a sort of control deck with judges and path to peaks and lost cities and whatnot. Mew is just an outstanding Pokemon. The draw engine of Genesect is completely bananas and incredible, and it's no surprise that even though there is literally a card printed that says I will always KO your Mew VMAX no matter what, we are still seeing this deck do so well and dominate. Now, is it time to play 2 Drapion Vs in some decks? I honestly don't think so. Most decks can't afford that bad start against every other deck, and as you've seen in the tier list, even though there are 3 big top decks, Drapion is useless against the other 2 tier 1 decks and probably the other 2 most popular decks. You don't want such a useless card all the time. And then speaking of the other tier 1 deck, Lugia V-Star, I feel like now has so much room for adaptability. We've seen Canceling Cologne get played, we've seen Lumineon and Irida get played in the list. We keep seeing Manaphy Dunsparce coming in and out of deck lists, Raikou as well, coming in and out of deck lists. Even the Collapse Stadium tends to be a flexible spot for most players. Now, this list is my personal favorite list. It's the most consistent list that I found so far. There is a little bit of wiggle room to change and add a Manaphy and Dunsparce perhaps, but I'm not a big fan of the cuts of or that you need to do in order to fit them in, so I'm personally not running them. I do love the 4-3 lugia line. I used to play 4-2, and I think that's one of the spots, the flexible spots you do have, either a 4-2 line or a 3-3 line. I personally prefer 4-2, as I feel like your number one goal is to bench a lugia on turn 1. If you're not doing that, then you're in trouble. And if you're going second, your number one goal is to bench 2 lugias. So with 4, you maximize the chances of having a good turn 1, right? And I feel like if you get a good turn 1, you're most likely to be able to accomplish something throughout the game and therefore potentially get a win. And that's always what we're looking for. So other than that, the rest of the list is pretty standard. You have the Raikou Pressure, the Yveltal, the Charizard for single prize attackers. You have the Stoutland B for the nice double dip fangs. You have all the energy necessary to power them up. You have the powerfuls to power up a Lugia, the consistency of double choice build, the one of Bird Keeper to fight off the paralysis shenanigans, which seem to have died off quite a bit. And we also have maximum consistency with the captures, the Ultra Rolls, the Quick Pulls, the Instances, and the Researches. So pretty cool deck, definitely very powerful and also manageable, right? It used to seem invincible, but now we clearly know that it is not invincible. And then for the tier 2 decks, there are quite a lot of variations you can have. All of these tier 2 decks, I think, have a lot of potential, right? Vikavolt, Regigigas, Lost Box Kyogre, Hisuian Goodra, and Arceus Duraludon. They have some very good and unique matchups against some decks. They also have some not ideal matchups against others, and that's what puts them at tier 2. They may even have some consistency issues themselves, such as Regigigas, which Regigigas' enemy is usually itself most of the time. If you are able to get a turn to attack, you're going to be in a good spot against most decks. If you are not and you start falling behind, then it gets a little bit troublesome. And then same for Vikavolt. If you get a turn 1 item lock, you're in a very good spot. But 60 damage or 50 or 6, like 50 damage without Zapdos, 60 damage with Zapdos is not that big of a deal most of the time to a lot of decks. So you can't afford to play the Vikavolt, the Regieleki VMAXs, but overall the deck can be very annoying. But I feel like the more you play against it, the more you easily figure out how to navigate around the item lock and just make sure you can power up something, usually powering up one Pokemon that can potentially 2-hit KO a Vikavolt leads to a weird situation for an opponent where if they focus on eliminating the threat, then they free up the items and you're free to go crazy with the item. And if they continue the item lock, then you can continue to pressure. And I feel like a lot of people get overwhelmed with item lock and overplay cards or underplay some of them. But yeah, Arceus, Duraludon, and Goodra, of course, big heavy hitters that try to tank damage. Duraludon having the benefit of not taking damage from Pokemon with special energies. Goodra just reducing damage outright and having done really well at Liverpool Regionals. I do expect a bump in popularity for Goodra. And then Lost Box Kyogre seems to be the number 2 Lost Box deck of choice. Also quite difficult to play super properly, but Manaphy doesn't seem to be seeing that much play lately outside of Lost Box decks, so that does beef up the Kyogre potential quite a bit, but overall it's just a little inferior in my eyes to the Rayquaza version of Lost Box. And then in tier 3 we have Palkia, we have the Radiant Charizard Lost Box variant, we also have Yveltal Control, which as always, Sander got top 8, another one to his collection, but I still feel like overall the deck relies a lot on surprise factor, and whenever it does well, it's least well positioned at the next event. I might be wrong, of course, but I feel like if you can properly manage your resources against those decks, they are very, very manageable overall. Then we have other Arceus decks, such as the Flying Pikachu variant with Napoleon, with Espion and Aerodactyl and things like that. They seem decent. Obviously, one did really well at San Diego, but overall, they're not going to be popular enough in numbers to justify a bump in tier, and they seem to be underwhelming against some things. So, not a big fan. And same for Eternatus. Got a little bit of hype, especially from the Japanese tournament, but it hasn't gotten a good result at this point after so many tries. And I feel like a lot of people really overestimate Galarian Weezing's value. It's just not that powerful of a card. It does stop abilities, but in return you're doing 40 damage. So then that means your opponent has a ton of time to build something up to deal with the Weezings. And if you switch into Eternatus to take those KOs and do big damage, then you're no longer ability locking. So not sure how good the deck is, but it will still see play for sure. And so that rounds up the tier list heading into Orlando Regionals. I'd be very surprised if there was a deck that did well outside of the ones listed here. But hey, it's always nice to see underdogs and surprise decks as well. So I'm looking forward to Orlando. I will be there throughout the whole weekend, and I hope you wish me I do well. And with that, I will see you in the next video. Thanks so much, and until next time. Bye-bye.